worry, guys. We'll be able to diagnose him without a degree real quickly. All right, cool. And then, Rob, do you want to share the screen on those 4 slides, or do you want me to go in there and grab that?
I can do it if you want.
That'd be great. Okay.
Hold on, let me pull up my my wonderful email. Did you send it to me?
Yeah, I did it at Rob Tucker. And then
I got it. All right.
You want me to go live in Family Tree, or are we already in there?
Already in there. We are there. We are you are officially live by 20 seconds.
I'll tell you, it's I'm just so not used to having capable people on the other side of me. These capacities. All right, let's talk
all right.
about, okay.
You want me to am I starting with the first one, 4 horsemen?
Yeah, why not? They're all 4. We're all suffering from all 4.
All right, you got it there.
All right, guys. So listen, we're going to take a deviation a little bit from real estate practices here, because frankly, almost every single thing that's happening to us is based on our mindset and our emotional capacity to work as an adult through adult problems. And we can sharpen the skills all day long and do all of that stuff. But there's a few things that are probably holding you guys back from whatever you're able to naturally achieve. So it's just one of those things where I think we need to actually address the source of the problem and not always treat the symptoms or work around things. Okay. So am I the only person here that has had anger problems in their life?
Nope.
Okay.
Of course you are, Rich. Of course you are.
I've gotten a lot better, Sean. So I'm 46 years old, and I don't know if my testosterone has dipped or something has happened, but it just takes a lot more to get me angry. I do feel internal frustrations often, and the way that I deal with those frustrations I'm noticing are radically different than the way that I used to. And I think that that has really been a benefit. I wonder why at 40 years old, I had middle-class success. And then at 46, I put myself into a much smaller group of people from a financial standpoint and probably from a happiness standpoint. And I don't correlate the two, although I don't disconnect them entirely. And I think a lot of the reason is that when I feel that retraction like a cobra, I'm able to process through it faster and more logically. And so we got 4 slides that we're going to work on here that might be interesting to you guys or might not. Criticism is a very, very interesting concept. The one thing about criticism that is really tough for a lot of us is that a lot of us have low self-worth, right? We either feel like we weren't loved properly or we're not worthy of it. And, we're too old to cry about our childhood. That's ridiculous. It's counterintuitive. Doesn't make any sense. But you have to understand the fact is that we were programmed by imperfect people like we are, and we are trying to work through whatever that hard wiring is. Some of you guys have a bad narrative, an internal narrative. Some of you guys have limiting beliefs. I've talked to a lot of people. They're like, oh, I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. And you ask them, do you even think that you're capable of doing that? I don't know. So, and then a lot of us, are doing like a spiritual bypass where we're just kind of bypassing the emotional part or the inability to handle something and letting that really prevent us from moving forward. And I think discipline, willpower, doing the right thing, all of those things are really, really, really big. Another thing, I think a lot of us are lying still as adults. We're lying to other people to not hurt their feelings or to come up with an excuse. And, it's a real people pleaser mechanism. It doesn't mean that you're not an honest person. It just means that you're being very lazy with dealing with healthy, confrontation. If someone invites my wife and I to their house at 8:30 on a Wednesday, I just tell them now, that's the last thing I want to do. And it's not because of the company, but at 8:30 on Wednesday, I don't want to leave the house. I mean, call me an old man, call me whatever you want. I don't want to leave the house at 8:30. It's just no interest level to me, right? So if that's going to happen, it's going to happen rarely. It's going to happen on a Friday or Saturday, just to earmark your calendar, right? A lot of you guys are lying to yourselves a little bit, I'm okay. I'm still hanging in, and there's a few things that you could tweak or work on. I think relationships are very difficult as you become an adult, both non-romantically and romantically, in the sense that you have two people that are not growing or changing, or you have one person that's growing or changing, or you have people that are digressing. And it's very, very hard to keep everybody on the same page and move forward here. So this is an attempt to deal with some of the stuff that we are all kind of working through. So criticism is a real trigger for a lot of you guys, probably most of you. And if you have a high sense of self-worth, it's not really that big of a deal. Now, I don't, so I'm only speaking from theory. But my 4-year-old has the self-esteem of Marlon Brando in his 20s. I mean, you just can't shake the kid, right? He's totally, totally, totally confident. So confident that it just seems casual and sort of precocious at times, right? So I don't know how he has so much self-esteem, and then my 7-year-old has less. I think some of it's hardwiring, genetics, some of it's environmental, but however it works, criticism is a real problem, because what I think criticism starts to happen is that it ends up stopping you from going forward with what you were predestined or pre-wired or built to do, right? So dealing with problems oftentimes will turn into harsh, blaming, hurtful expressions, judgment, disapproval. And then what you end up doing is you focus on all the personal intention, even if it wasn't in there, and you become defensive, And when you talk to people that are triggered by that, you can't say, as the example is, the kitchen's a mess, you're a slob, right? That doesn't work. It's not really encouraging. Now, the way that we grew up, a lot of us on this call, was that you were penalized for bad behavior, right? But where a lot of us didn't get any help was that we weren't encouraged for good behavior. And when you look at the science of it, like Jordan Peterson is sort of my adopted mentor. Jordan Peterson really says that encouragement, and kind of the way that you train a puppy with little dog treats and encouragement and affection, is the way to motivate kids, not through the fear of something going wrong, right? And a lot of kids that are not getting the right attention will get any attention over none. So you could find yourself in a bad cycle if you're raising your kids in a way that isn't encouraging them to move forward. And why would us as adults, who are basically just more sophisticated, complex, messed up versions of kids, be any different? We're still operating. Just because you're 63 doesn't mean that none of this applies. It applies as much as it's always applied, right? So when you really have to start softening your tone when you're talking to people that are defensive, which is probably just about almost everybody in your life. And you got to save the discussion and have timing. It's very selfish to want to tackle a problem when you have personally been prepared to deal with it. Oh, I've been thinking about this all day. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna talk to my wife about this, and we're gonna work through this right now. My wife might not have been thinking about it at all. She might have had a bad day with the kids. It might not be the right time for my wife, right? It might not be the right time based on our flow pattern of how we've been getting along or not getting along, right? So I think that having an appropriate time to discuss things are important. One thing that I've been really focused on doing as a parent is that my kids are crazy when they have to brush their teeth. The last 30 minutes of them being awake at the end of the day is chaos, right? And what I've been doing is, instead of talking to them about the chaos while they're in it, because they can't hear me, right? What I've been talking to them about is before the chaos starts or after, like right when their head's falling in the pillow and we survived the tsunami of 2 boys, and all the crazy stuff that's going on. I'm like, okay, that was pretty crazy, wasn't it? Right? When it gets crazy like that, everybody gets tense, doesn't work out right. We can have playtime before this time if we're not wasting it on everybody being mad, not working together, right? So I use different techniques to help get things work. It's like, we'll have a race. Who can brush their teeth in 30 seconds, but you can't be done within less than 25. This way we get all the teeth brushed, right? Or only brush the teeth that you want to keep. That always keeps them from brushing all the sides, right? So we start going through these types of things, but you have to be able to deliver information to the public and to the people around you, like absolutely gently. And I'm not saying that we need to use pillows to work around the whole world because everybody's oversensitive, which I do feel like is some of the case. I think that it's incumbent upon the communicator to make sure the message lands over versus how frustrated we are with the experience of how it had to land. So using warm body language a lot of times could sound like, hey, I've also experienced this. And when I get frustrated or somebody says something to me, I take it ultra personal. And it really isn't about what they're saying. It's about the fact that I've heard this before and it's been correlated to people who've had a large impact on me. And it can bring me all the way back to a place where you never intended to go. So if you say it like this, that might help me kind of understand. Now, criticism is a very interesting thing. It's very often not constructive. Just remember, guys, every word that you use before you put the word but in a sentence is all bullshit. We only listen to after the word but, right? So I think it's really important to understand that none of us like criticism, and none of the people around us are particularly good at handling criticism. There's very few. The ones that are good at handling criticism are probably people that have just learned to control their anger. But I don't think anybody really enjoys when someone else is able to obviously point out some flaw within you that you're aware of. Now, if you're not aware of it, that's a whole other thing that I'm not qualified to talk about. But I think when it comes down to this one thing, we should be gentle in the way that we deal with criticism and the way that we receive it. So when you receive it, I need you guys to take a step back and say, okay, that's not resonating with me well. What are they trying to convey? If they didn't care at all about me, I don't know if they'd say anything. They'd probably just distance. So what are they trying to get across? What am I not seeing about my own behavior? What within my behavior is preventing me from actual behavior modification and change and paradigm shifts and growth? Okay. The more you guys grow, the more life gets enhanced in every way, right? Remember, rotten thoughts lead to rotten outcomes. Well, the fact of the matter is that, like, if you're building a race car, everybody works on the horsepower, but like, what about the brakes? We got to be able to stop this baby quick, not do damage. Okay. All right, let's move to the next slide. Thanks, Ron. Oh, okay. I can hit that button too, right? No, I can't. Okay. All right, defensiveness. This is, anybody here major in defensiveness? Okay, thank you. Fair. All right, so deflecting responsibility to protect your ego and your self-esteem, isn't really easy for the other person to engage with. If every single time someone says something to you and you defend it, what you're basically saying is, let's just turn the aim back on you, and let's just say that everything that you're saying to me penetrates against this outward shell of me not being strong enough to deal with it. Okay? Being defensive is almost an admission of guilt, in my opinion. If you're defensive and you're that quick to save yourself and blockade yourself from something that could trigger real emotion, then there's a two-pronged problem. One, it's going to stop you from being able to progress relationships to where they could have been if you weren't like that. Two, it'll lead you to gaslighting. I know that's a popular term right now, but I mean, defensive people basically just take the gun that's pointed at them and point it back at the target. And here's the whole point. Do I have to be perfect to give you advice? No. Do I even have to be good at what I'm talking about? No, not at all. I mean, honestly, I could say, hey, you have a real anger management problem. You know how I'm able to identify that? I have an anger management problem and you sound exactly like I feel. Now, let me tell you, every time I feel like that and I respond the way that you're responding, my life gets worse. Okay? So avoid taking it personally, use feedback as an opportunity to improve, show remorse and apologize. I think that's very, very important. Hey, listen, I probably could have handled that better, and I don't want my reaction to be a bigger shadow than the object that we're talking about, right? I need to be easier to communicate with. So, not to bring in my wife a whole lot, but my wife's a lot more mature than I am despite the age difference. I think it's sometimes a woman-men thing, and sometimes it's just the fact that I'm not very mature to start with. So I've had to do a lot of heavy work in my 30s and 40s trying to get myself to where I deserve to be with a high caliber person like my wife, and I'm not letting her down. Like, I don't want her to not to be with me when she could be with somebody who's better than me. So what I'm going to try to do is at least be the best version of myself that I can be. So you can't say I didn't try or it wasn't meaningful to me, even if I fall short, right? So, and I'm not too easy on myself as far as falling short, by the way. That can also be a very easy out, right? So controlling your temper is important. If I can piss all of you guys off and change your mood for the next 2 hours, who's controlling you? You or me? That means the whole world can control you. You ever see those people in a road rage situation where they're screaming at the window or giving you a finger because you made an accident, you made an error on the road? Is anybody here never made an error driving? I think to myself, what the hell's going on in that car? Like, for you to be that short of a fuse to where you're willing to get out of your car and scream in my face or fight or brake check me over a simple, innocent error, like, your anger is out of control. You're a time bomb. What would it be like to live with you? To be your kids, to be your parents, to be your spouse, to be your friend, or to be a colleague, or somebody that you depend on? Like, come on, guy. Like, that's a lot, man. It's a lot we're putting on other people. So, don't make excuses for your behavior. Don't shift the blame to somebody else. You could have a total psychopath tell you, hey, listen, man, I think your impatience is really actually hurting you in life. And you could say, you know what? Thank you for the advice. Let me sleep on that. Initially, I don't like criticism. I don't particularly like when people say things like that to me. And I'm realizing now at this stage of my life that people are actually trying to point out something in me that I don't really have good command over. And I don't like walking around through this life, the older that I get, not having command on my own emotions or how I'm coming off or how I'm impacting the people around me. That energy field is very important to me. So I'm going to take what you said and I'm going to go home and sleep on it. And I'm going to either filter it through and throw it away, or I'm going to take it to heart and I'm going to make a change. If you see progress in me next time you're with me, I'd like you to point it out to me, because like you, I'm a person who thrives off encouragement. So 2.5 months later, somebody goes up to you and say, hey, Rich, I noticed you've been a lot more patient on that call. I noticed that person was telling you a story that was irrelevant and taking up all the people's times by sharing a story and not asking a question on a 30-minute segment. And you kept it cool. You weren't flipping all out. Great. It's because of what you said to me. And actually, when I applied that, I noticed that my kids are happier, my wife's happier, my friends are happier, my working colleagues are happier. It's working pretty well for me. You've actually helped push me out of the swamp. So I appreciate that. All right, let's go next slide. I know some of this stuff is very basic, and I know a lot of you guys are gonna be like, why the hell are we listening to this? Yet you're continuing to sin. So it's super, super important. Remember, in this lifetime, nothing is very complicated. All we do as adults is complicate everything with excuses, stories, narratives, feelings, emotions, reactionary, ego, all of that stuff. It's a very, very simple life. If you can walk in your backyard, pick off an orange, eat it under a nice sunny day, and watch your kids kick a $4 ball around the backyard, and that gives you joy, just remember, you don't have to figure out how to be happy. Like, that's it. If you can go stand by the beach and see the sun go down and that makes you happiness, do you have to be Grant Cardone to do that? I don't know about you guys, but flying in a private jet or having a road trip with my kids singing Separate Ways by Journey, I'd rather take my truck. Okay, so let's talk about contempt. When you show anger, disgust, hostility toward your partner, and you use cursing, you call them names, you put them down, you act superior, you mock them, you make an impression of their tone and voice to you. Anybody done that before? Only a couple of you guys? Really? Okay. So when you do that, like my ex-husband. So when you do that, sorry, I'm in the chat. So when you do that, like, what does that really say? It doesn't really say much about me. If somebody is making fun of me or talking to me that way, it doesn't really say that much about me, because probably the impression isn't accurate, but it really says a lot about them. It seems like a big temper tantrum. So there's a reason why sometimes my 4-year-old is eating dinner and he's the only one without a shirt on, right? Why is he not wearing a shirt? Because something got on his shirt because he wasn't paying attention, and then he doesn't like something on his shirt, so now he's not wearing a shirt, right? Do you want to be the person who's 51 years old at the dinner table that has no shirt on because you couldn't keep your shit together? Like, no, you don't want to be that person, and you don't want to live with that person, and you don't want to be the person I live with. Does anybody here ever feel like your partner or spouse or whoever you live with brings out the worst in you? That's not the case. You're bringing out the worst in you. You don't know how to behave in conflict. You don't know how to keep things into perspective. You don't know how to make molehills, not mountains, right? So the contempt that somebody is saying something to you that you do not agree with is bizarre. Anybody ever call an agent about revenue share and they get one of these people on the phone? Come on, dude. You figured out all of life already? Are you sure? And why the hell are you driving a Camry, working 7 hours, 7 hours later than I am, and have 2 months of savings in your account, and your kids are on electronics instead of talking to you, and you're 40 pounds out of shape, and you're on Facebook 9 hours a day. Do you believe that I believe that? I don't believe that. I don't know if you believe that. If you want to pretend to be that person, now we're actors. I'm not a good actor. Okay, I'm a person, and I'm telling you, I don't think that any of what you're fronting is true. And you must be okay with that, or you're scared of it. If you're scared of it, don't worry. Everybody's scared of it. Let's go deeper. Let's see what we got here, right? So foster healthy relationships by showing each other respect and appreciation. I grew up in martial arts. My boys are in martial arts. It's not to be able to throw an axe kick and break someone's collarbone. It's because it's a yes sir, no sir environment. It's a move toward pain. It's an I can do it. It's how can I make you better? It's the first person to put a hand down and pick somebody off the floor. There's a respect level that is built within certain institutions that are very important. The more that you show affection, recognize your partner's strengths, and give compliments, the better things are going to go. You guys want to know what an aphrodisiac is? Look at the bottom 3 right points on this list. You want to have somebody that is all over you and thinks you're the best person in the world. Show them affection, recognize their strengths, and give them compliments. There's a reason why you pursue them or relented to their pursuing you. Why have we forgotten that? What, it's not cool because it's happened 2,000 times? It's always cool. Every single time I eat my first bite of pizza, it's exactly as good as the first time that I had that first bite. Right? Every single time I'm exhausted and I lay down into a comfortable bed, it's always the best. Every time I smell a dryer vent when clothes are getting cleaned, for some reason, I love it. Right? Every time I hear a Harley Davidson run through my neighborhood, it's the sound of music. Right? Whatever you guys love, you probably still love. So many people are afraid of death, yet they're absolutely dreading their life. Like, dude, if your life is filled with contempt and defensiveness and all of these other things, like, death is welcomed. Right? So we have to start treating everybody nicer. And we have to control the way that we treat people and the way that we receive people treating us. And I know it's hard. Floyd Mayweather has got the best record in boxing, probably top 2 or 3 in the history of the world. I hate watching Floyd Mayweather fight. Every single person he's ever fought, I've hoped would knock him out. I've lost $90, $100 on pay-per-view for 25 years, hoping that somebody would knock him out and I would be there to witness it. Why do I hate watching him fight? Because he's a defensive fighter and he's cocky, right? Well, I'll tell you one thing about being a defensive fighter is that he takes absolutely no damage from anybody, right? So he's been able to dodge the blows and attacks of any single person that they put in a small cage with him for 25 years. Nothing gets through to him. That's how you have to be with your anger and your emotions. Now, what do you put off? Well, he puts off cockiness. If you put off kindness, now we're talking about greatness. Okay? So the idea for us is to build our character and not break our character. We need to be better each day, and we need to be mindful. And I don't know if you guys need a tattoo of this on your forearm, because sometimes I feel like I do, but be gentle, be kind, be patient, be reflective. Think about what people say to you. Think about how you communicate to other people. All right? Anybody grew up in an environment where they said, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all? How true is that? Right? Unsuccessful people complain laterally, right? Successful people focus on themselves. And if there's somebody that they can help that is within their periphery, they lean in and offer it. Now, if that person totally like kicks it back and rejects it, how does that have anything to do with me? There's a very good likeliness that that person is struggling because they make bad decisions. I offered them a lifeline. They decided not to take it. What does that have to do with me? Nothing. Doesn't mean that I'm not worthy. Doesn't mean that if that person doesn't see me as a worthy partner, I have to go back home and redefine who I am, what my self-esteem is at 46 years old because some 29-year-old told me that, they need a better coach or mentor than I mean, has really nothing to do with it. Maybe they're right. I don't know. I don't walk around thinking I'm the best coach and mentor there is in the world. I just let you know that I'm trying to help you out. All right, let's go to the last slide. Thanks, Rob. All right, this is the Sunday after a nice 48-ounce ribeye. This is what puts you into a coma. Okay, emotionally withdrawing or shutting down and going silent during important discussions. Watch out. We overheated, radiator steaming. I now will retract into a little tiny cell, and my empathy and stoicism will start to reverse, and you are no longer invited inside. And I will withhold, that could be withholding sex, affection, concentration, focus, eye contact, could be anything that you want to withhold. And you will now get penalized for engaging with me at the most raw level because I will stonewall you. That is not, that is a real blockade for progressing. Okay, feeling overwhelmed, having difficult discussions, having confrontation, underlying problems getting either swept under the rug or unresolved or unrecognized. These are the things that cause true stress on the body, on the organs, on the mind. Stress for you and stress for the person that you're applying them to or that's applying them to you. Okay. Self-soothing is a whole nother topic. I'm not a therapist. I can kind of tell you what it looks like. I'm very scared to open up that part of the conversation because I'm going to piss off a lot of people here. So I don't know if I will, but basically you got to stay present with your partner. Agree to pause the conversation. Hey, listen, I need a breath. I feel like I'm starting to retract and shut down. And I know that's not what you need in order to be heard or convey your feelings or thoughts on this. Taking a deep breath is huge. I'm a Wim Hof breather. I always have. I've been for 8 years. Right. I can hold my breath for 5 minutes and 10 seconds. Right. Breathing is the key. Okay. It's the key to meditation. For those of you that can't get into meditation because your mind's too busy like me, it's the key to prayer. For those of you that fall asleep while you're saying your prayers and never finish the last part, breathing is a real important piece. You're going to oxygenate your brain. You're going to release serotonin and dopamine. You're going to let that stress out of your body through your mouth. It's a very important piece. You remember how back 60 years ago, you know how stupid we were 60 years ago, right? But they'd say, hey, go count to 10. I mean, like basically same thing, right? And then use progressive muscle relaxation techniques. I don't think any of you guys are going to do that because then you look silly and most of us are still working on our egos. So like, let's just basically chill out. We're going to take a breath. We're going to do a strategic pause. Hey, listen, I need to go use the restroom for 1 minute. I'll be right back. I'm going to stop waiting to talk and digest what you said. And when I come back in a minute, we'll continue right here. Hold your thought. Okay. How are we self-soothing? So let's get into it because I've been late every single day this week. We'll go 4 more minutes. Okay. So I can only speak for men. I can't speak for you for women on this, although I do think that there's almost 100% parallels, but I'm just not sure. First thing for men is they become workaholics, some of them. Everything's about work. Their value is tied to how much money they make, what kind of providers they are, what kind of stuff they own. They measure that way. Okay. Second group of guys basically emotionally withdraw and they build a philosophy around the life that they made. And they don't build a life around the philosophy that they once had. They reduce, they lower the bar. Self-soothing happens in front of the refrigerator. Any guys on this call ever been laughed at because you're standing in front of an open refrigerator for 55 seconds, not knowing what you want to eat? We can't find anything. Okay, right? Most of the time you're eating emotionally, right? We don't need 3,000 calories as adults. We just don't need that. So most of the time you're eating emotionally, right? That's why pornography has gotten out of control on the internet. A lot of people are self-soothing in all these other ways when it could be very, very simple. Wake up, get a 30-minute run in, get your heart rate up, go work out, take a cold shower, think about other people, listen to something while you're taking a shower or you're on your run that changes the way that you think. Get your education in while you're walking. Walk with someone you care about so you can spend quality time and get exercise. Walk with somebody else who needs to walk more than you need to walk. Exercise is an outlet. Now, you go to the gym and you see somebody where the veins look like I-95 in Miami, maybe they're self-soothing through overworking out. You're going to see unhealthy spurts of energy and focus and compulsion come out everywhere. With men, it's always the same places: alcohol, pills, just all kinds of different things there, right? So where are you self-soothing? And wherever you're self-soothing, if that was recasted towards something that was positive for you, how would that affect your life after 6 months, 1 year, 10 years, 30 years of habits? If you went for a walk with somebody who needed to go for a walk, and you brought a new person into that cycle once a month in a 30-year period of time, how many people could you have an impact on that you helped, that you gave encouragement, that you listened to? So I know this is a bit off the trail here, but the way that you're dealing with your anger is circling you back to the result that you currently have. Okay? It's not the way that you're dealing with your talents. The way that you're dealing with your talents is more than offset by the way that you're dealing with your anger, right? A lot of people are using the word narcissist out here, and I mean, what, 3% of the population are narcissist? I mean, there's a lot of narcissistic traits because we're taking pictures of ourselves now and calling them selfies. I don't understand that. But anyway, the point is that there's a lot of focus on I right now. And where I think there's a lot of conflation going on is that a lot of people are angry, and these traits are looking a lot like other disorders. There's only like 9 or 10 personality disorders in the world. Most likely on this call with 46 people, only 1 or 1.5 of us actually have a personality disorder. Most everybody else has anger problems, self-worth problems, self-love problems, fear problems. You're not able to navigate through fear. Okay. So why do you have fear? Because you have low self-esteem, low self-worth. Who gave that to you? Somebody that probably cares about you, right? And then guess what? They gave it to you, but you kept it. You never gave it away you never released it into the air. You decide to hold it and walk around with it for decades and then teach it to your kids, right? So we do have a certain point here where we have to start addressing the elephant in the room, which is our success is a symptom of how we're operating. Now, whatever level of success I am is not a compliment to the fact that I have my shit together. It's not. It's just showing you what having a little bit of my shit together looks like. If I really had my act together, I'd be making $1 million every 4 or 5 days. And guess what? I could give away probably 9/10 of it. Anybody think that the world could use resources for charity organizations, science, research, hunger, dogs being abused? You name the charity. They're endless, right? So anyway, all of those things are possible for you guys, for every single person on this thing, and we all have a very specific talent. The question is how much are you pulling against yourself by your inability to deal with your frustrations, your anger, and your own personal narrative? And I think that we need to start exploring stuff like that. I can do more on this. I'm just not a therapist, so I don't want to misinform at a deep level. So that's why I used actual charts that I found from reputable. I think I got this one off BetterHelp, right? Because at least it's all been approved charts. All right. All right. Anybody have any other questions, feedback? What do you guys think? We could stop share real quick. Okay.
Awesome stuff, I think, Rich.
Dude,
Cool.
these are the conversations that we don't have enough.
All right. Good, Rob.
I hope this doesn't sound weird, Rich, but I could listen to you all day long.
Hey, Julie, we've been
My wife
recording,
would have
so
vomited her
you can
mouth.
actually play them at night as you're going to sleep and all that kind of stuff. if
Well,
you
I'm not gonna lie, I do kind of binge watch all his old stuff, like from 2019. I'm not gonna lie, I have watched a few Rich videos lately on repeat.
Listen, one thing that makes me very relatable is that I think I'm very, very broken and I'm not comfortable with it.
I think this is
So-
the stuff that people just don't talk about, Rich. This is the stuff people just don't talk about. I commend you for bringing it to the public.
Thanks, Sean. So, like, here's the thing, guys, is that we can build skills and technique until the cows come home. Okay? What we can't fail to do is figure out a way that we can navigate through the world with harmony and fluidity and be one step ahead of everybody else's inability to control their emotions. Okay? There's like 4 or 5 people in the world that can control my emotions. That really leaves me in a world of that I can interact with and not get damaged by too hard. I mean, I could get sick and die, but we all have a death sentence. We just don't know what the marginal decade of your life's going to be, right? So I'm not too worried about dying because that's going to happen. I'm a little bit more worried about living because that's more of a choice. The dying isn't much of a choice, right? Now, can I navigate this world with everything that my parents taught me? It's a good start. If I stop there, then I only know what they remember to tell me or what they got a handle on. So I must move the needle. If I'm going to reproduce, then I must make sure that the next generation has an advantage, hopefully the same one that my parents gave me from their parents. And if they didn't, I'm here to correct that. It's my responsibility. If I'm going to work at EXP and have business partners and shareholders, I want you guys to be the best that you can be. Some of you guys can be so much better than I am with so much less work. So the worst sin that you can make in this world is not utilizing whatever natural proclivities that you have at the highest use. What I tell my son, my 7-year-old, he'll be 7 August 14th. He's the best soccer player in this entire state of North Carolina. He is. He's a little messy. We practice 2 hours a day. Who can beat us? Anybody here have a kid that's practicing 2 hours a day that's 6 years old? I mean, we just have an advantage because we have time, right? So the whole thing with him is if you didn't have this natural talent, we wouldn't have to do anything with it. Soccer's just fun. But because you are so gifted in your speed, your mobility, your technique, your ability to adapt in live situations, your generosity and all the passing and assist that you provide the other team to make them look better, that now we have a responsibility, a burden to make sure that we never let this talent not be married to the work ethic that can make something great from this. We took him to drum lessons. He was like Ringo from the Beatles. We pulled him right back out, right? That's not going to be your thing, buddy. You know? So wherever you guys are, like, I think most of you guys, can anybody raise their hand? One person raise their hand and tell me where they have an exceptional talent. Is anybody here good at something? One person, give me an example. I know. Look how hard it is. What was that?
Coaching kids in sports, youth
Okay.
sports. I coached hockey and lacrosse for 10, 12 years, kids of all ages.
Perfect. Okay. So that is something that you can't let get dusty, because I can promise you, with all these kids without, 2 parents and all the stuff that they're going through and cyberbullying and all of these easy compulsive habits where you can lose your life based on looking at a digital device, like you're more needed than ever before in your entire lifetime, right? If that is your natural skill, then you should be coaching kids, which really means that you're capable to coach adults at any age, because all we are is worse versions of that. You ever listen to Picasso? He goes, the best artists he's ever seen in his life were 5 and 6-year-olds, not people that studied how to paint still life for 25 years, right? So hold on, someone else had their hand up there. Lauren, maybe it was. Okay.
That's right.
Right. Okay. So listen, guys, print up these 4 sheets. It'll be on Rockstar. If you don't know where to find it, go in there for 5 or 10 minutes and figure it out. That will be a whole nother victory. It's pretty cool, right? And then once you get it, print it out and cut it up with a scissor and paste it on your desk and look at these 4 things. And as soon as you find yourself defaulting back to a pattern that is easy and embarrassing and weak, look at the box, put yourself in that box, look at the right side of that list, and go back to the situation and use those techniques and see how it works out for you. It's going to take you a couple years to get through this. But what's a couple years? Whatever. I had brown hair last time I looked in the mirror. It's all going so fast. It's nothing. Okay? All right. Peace out. It's 10:30. Go out there and kill it. Good seeing
Hey,
you.
Rich, real quick, if I could, I heard something like this 10 or 12 years ago, and personally, I don't mind being transparent. I've gotten a lot better with what I have. But when I heard it the first time, somebody put it on the screen like that for me, and I realized then, wow, that's me. And nobody else in the world would have ever told me this. I'm not going to hire a clinical psychologist. I'm not going to go to the appointment to the counselor. I'm not. So I guess what I wanted to say was, if you're getting off of this call right now and you just heard this stuff and this stuff is slapping you around a little bit, reach out to somebody. Go hug your partner. Do those things you need to get yourself collected, and then take those 4 sheets that you just printed out on a Rockstar Agent, start working on them, because you can change it, and it's for the better for all of us and everybody around us.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, I suffer from all 4. All 4 of those things I am guilty of doing. A felon, not a misdemeanor. I've been a felon in all 4 categories. I can say right now, I'm a misdemeanor in all 4 categories, and sometimes innocent about stonewalling. I've almost totally gotten that out of my body. But I still get defensive. I still don't like criticism initially, so I have to work through that. Your brain goes from receiving information, attaching a feeling, and then some of you guys are skipping this step, which is logically thinking through the situation, and then there's reaction. So someone's like, Rich, you're a total fraud. I hate what you do. Every single time I come on this call, it makes me want to leave EXP. That gets received in my brain. 2, I have a feeling. Triggers all kinds of different things, right? 3, I have the ability to basically sort through it very quickly and then put it in one of 2 categories, possibly true, just an attack. And then I have the ability to react. Does anybody know the difference between a response and a reaction? Is anybody responding, or is everybody reacting? Okay. Here's how you raise your value. When you don't sink to the level of the person that you're fighting with, they now realize that they are out of their league. They don't know what to do with you. Okay? When I have my wife thinks I'm very good in conflict, because I was a realtor for a long time, and she heard me talk to some of these crazy people out there, and I always stayed very calm, and I always stayed very logical and very patient, and I never conceded what was right from a principle standpoint, not how I felt. And one of the things that helped me build revenue share were that most of the agents that joined me here were agents that I had conflict with, and they actually liked me better after the conflict than they did prior to the conflict, because they had never been in a wrestling match with somebody that was so, you could pull me anywhere you want to pull me. I don't have any self-esteem issues on where we fight this battle. I'm fine. I'm comfortable everywhere, because you're not going to control my emotions. I'm logical. I'm reflective, and that I know no matter what, I can keep my act together for 5 or 10 minutes. Now, if we're fighting for over 10 minutes, at that point, we've already gone through a couple patterns of cycles. We have the gaslighting going on. Now it's attacks on me. It's a different topic. It's projections. It's defensiveness. You start seeing the cycles, like the 5 stages of grief, or 4. I don't know what it is. I've never gone to therapy either, Sean. But whatever that clock is, you start seeing the cycles. And at some point, you say, okay, we are back to the beginning. The first cycle was that you turned everything on me. The second cycle is that you devalued who I am. The third cycle is that you validated why you feel that way and why you're right. The fourth is that you shut down, but you didn't go away. If you shut down and go away, it's fine, we're done. But if you don't go away, it's sort of like a puppy that you're not sure if they're lost or not. Like, I don't know. Is there more that we need to talk about? I'll stay here with you. Right? So one of the things I realized when I got divorced in 2002 is that I didn't realize at the time, but my ex-wife divorced me because I was an idiot. I was intolerable. And from 23 till 36, I spent 13 years on trying to raise my value and be more of a catch than a liability. And I can tell you that while I failed across the board on every topic, the margin, the needle that was able to be moved, was able to retrieve out of the world the wife that I have right now, which I would say is the most dynamic woman I've ever met. Period. Right? The most dynamic. If my wife dies, I can't be in another relationship. I'm screwed. I can only be single. So, and it's not because I love her so much. It's just because I'm not codependent. I'm fine living on my own. Sometimes she crowds me, to be honest with you. But the fact of the matter is that her caliber is so far ahead of other women that I've met, and I've met tens of thousands, that it will most likely be a settling situation. And I know myself, I won't settle on anything. I'd rather just be alone. Right? And what happens is that as you continue to raise and increase your value, your clients get better, your love interests get better, your relationships get stronger, and you start shaking the fleas of the people who can't hang. And guess what? Get rid of them. First thing that you learn in coaching is who's going to be at your 80th birthday party, and then why the hell are we spending all the time with all these people that are not on that list? All right, guys. Peace out.